Today's episode is titled, You Will Not Find Happiness, Peace of Mind and Joy Unless You Do This. What if I told you that happiness is not something you pursue, but something you uncover? What if peace of mind, joy of living, and lasting fulfillment are not found somewhere out there, but discovered within, when you remember who you truly are? Welcome to Speech and Mind, a space where ancient wisdom meets modern science, where we explore the extraordinary power of inner speech, mindfulness, and consciousness to transform your reality. By the way, if you're new here, we post weekly videos. Subscribe so you don't miss them. In the next 40 minutes, we'll explore this idea in depth, drawing from timeless teachings, neuroscience, and the mechanics of the mind. This journey is not about quick fixes. It's about awakening to the deeper truth of your being. And come with me, because what you discover next might just change how you experience everything. So let's begin. Part 1. The Illusion of Outer Happiness. Let's begin with a question that echoes beneath the surface of almost every human endeavor. Are you truly happy? Not the fleeting kind of happiness that comes with a new possession, a social media like, or an achievement checked off the list, but the kind that hums quietly beneath the surface, an enduring inner peace, a sense of, I am well, even when things are not perfect. Are you at peace, not occasionally, but deeply, in your everyday experience? If you're unsure, you're not alone. In fact, this quiet discontent is one of the most universal human experiences. We're born into a world that teaches us to chase. From a young age, we absorb the message, often unconsciously, that happiness lives somewhere in the future. It's in the next promotion, the ideal relationship, the perfect body, the dream home. We tell ourselves, I'll be happy when, and we begin the lifelong chase. This cycle of seeking, always looking outside ourselves for fulfillment, is not only exhausting, it's misleading. It creates a subtle but dangerous illusion that happiness is a result, not a revelation. That peace is something we find out there instead of something we uncover within. But here's what we begin to realize. Often after years of striving, even when you get what you thought you wanted, the feeling doesn't last. Think about it. How many times have you accomplished a goal or acquired something you deeply desired, only to find the joy fading within days or even hours? The thrill wears off. The mind says, what's next? And just like that, the moment of joy slips through your fingers like sand. So why does this happen? Because external things can satisfy your preferences, but they cannot fulfill your being. They can entertain the mind, but they cannot quiet the soul. The sense of emptiness that drives our desire is not something to be filled, it's something to be understood. As Sri Ramana Maharshi once said, happiness is your true nature. It is not wrong to desire it. What is wrong is seeking it outside when it is inside. This is not poetic metaphor. It is a precise diagnosis of the human condition, and it reflects the convergence of spiritual insight and modern psychology. You see, when we base our happiness on external conditions, we give away our power. We become emotionally reactive, dependent on circumstances we often can't control. Our mental health becomes tied to variables outside our influence. And yet, true personal growth begins the moment we reverse that equation. We stop looking outward to soothe the restlessness, and instead, we turn inward. We begin to ask deeper questions. Who am I beneath my roles and achievements? Why does joy feel so elusive? What if happiness isn't something I gain, but something I remember? This turning point, this inward shift, is the beginning of wisdom. It's the moment you realize that inner peace isn't a reward, it's a state of alignment, a state that comes when your thoughts, values, and awareness come into harmony, a state you can cultivate regardless of what's happening around you. So ask yourself again, are you truly happy? Or have you confused stimulation for joy, distraction for peace, and success for worth? What if the source of your suffering isn't your lack of progress, but your forgetting of who you already are? When you stop chasing and begin listening, you'll notice something extraordinary. There's a presence within you that is always calm, always still, always whole. It's not affected by gain or loss. It's not thrilled by approval or afraid of rejection. It is the essence of your being. And it is from this ground that all true happiness, all authentic joy of living, and all sustainable peace of mind emerges. So before we go further on this journey, let this truth settle into you. You were never meant to chase happiness. You were meant to remember it. And as we explore the deeper dimensions of thought, emotion, and consciousness, you'll begin to see that the joy you've been searching for is already closer than your breath. Part 2. The Role of the Mind in Suffering. To understand why inner peace often feels out of reach, we must now turn our attention inward, not just spiritually, but scientifically. Because suffering, as it turns out, is not solely about what happens to us. It's about how the mind interprets what happens. Modern neuroscience has uncovered something both fascinating and empowering. The brain is not a passive machine, simply reacting to the outside world. It is a predictive and interpretive organ, constantly shaping your experience of reality, not through raw facts, but through perception. And how does the brain do this? Primarily through inner speech, imagination, and emotionally charged memory. Let that settle for a moment. You're not just experiencing the world, you are narrating it. Moment by moment, you're telling yourself a story. That story shapes your feelings, your beliefs, your behaviors, and ultimately, your life. So if you're suffering right now, it may not be the situation itself that's causing pain. It may be the story your mind is attaching to that situation. Let's take an example. Imagine someone doesn't respond to your message. The reality? A simple silence. But the mind jumps in. They're ignoring me. I must have done something wrong. I'm not important. Now, none of that may be true. But the emotional reaction, the anxiety, the self-doubt, the rejection, feels real. Why? Because your brain believes your inner speech, and your body responds accordingly. Tightening, bracing, activating stress hormones. All of this from a thought. This is the intersection of mental health and mindfulness. Noticing how your inner world generates much of your outer experience. In fact, research in neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and rewire based on thought and experience, confirms something the mystics knew centuries ago. Your repeated thoughts shape your neural reality. Every time you dwell in self-criticism, regret, or fear, you are not just feeling those emotions. You are training your nervous system to live in those states. You are rehearsing suffering. But, and here's the empowering truth, the opposite is equally real. If you begin to cultivate thoughts of compassion, confidence, and calm, you start to literally rewire your brain toward states of inner peace, resilience, and emotional clarity. This is not spiritual fluff. This is measurable, neurological fact. Studies show that consistent mindfulness practices and intentional mental habits activate regions of the brain associated with happiness, well-being, and self-regulation. This is the science behind transformation. So what does this mean for you? It means that suffering is not a life sentence, it is a signal, an invitation to examine the way your mind has been conditioned to think. It is a call to take back authorship over your inner narrative. And this is where personal growth begins. When you become aware of your inner speech, and consciously shift its tone, you are no longer a passive character in the story. You become the narrator, the author, the creator. This is the power of a growth mindset, the ability to shift from "why is this happening to me?" to "what is this showing me about my own mind?" You stop reacting blindly. You start responding consciously. And in that space between stimulus and response, you find freedom. You find peace of mind. You find the beginning of a new relationship with yourself. This is where the ancient and the modern meet. From the meditative insights of spiritual sages to the brain scans of modern researchers, one truth echoes across disciplines. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. And when you reclaim that awareness, you reclaim your life. So as we continue this journey inward, remember, your mind is not your enemy. It is your garden, and every thought is a seed. The question is, what will you plant today? Part 3. Mindfulness and the discipline of thought. Now that we understand how the mind contributes to our suffering, the question naturally arises: how do we take back control? How do we move from being a passive observer of mental chaos to an intentional creator of peace of mind? The answer is not resistance, not suppression, not escape. The answer is mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just a trendy wellness term or a technique reserved for monks and meditators. It is, quite literally, the discipline of attention, the art of seeing clearly, without judgment, what is happening inside your mind at any given moment. Your thoughts, your emotions, your bodily sensations, your inner speech. When you practice mindfulness, you begin to notice something startling. You are in constant dialogue with yourself. You talk to yourself all day long, in words, images, assumptions, silent emotional tones. And if you slow down enough, you may begin to ask, am I speaking peace or chaos? Am I reinforcing joy or suffering? Am I feeding my mind with clarity or confusion? This internal dialogue, often referred to as inner speech, is not trivial. It is the very substance of your reality. Neuroscience confirms what mystics like Neville Goddard knew intuitively. Change your inner speech, and you change your outer world. This isn't metaphor. This is the mechanism of neuroplasticity in action. You see, your thoughts aren't just passing clouds. They leave imprints, forming neural pathways, reinforcing emotional states, shaping your identity. And the part of the brain most involved in this ongoing inner commentary is the default mode network, DMN, the neural circuitry that activates when your mind is not focused on the external world. This network is always on, weaving together memories, future predictions, beliefs about self and others, crafting the narrative that defines your life. And here's the powerful truth. You can reprogram it. Through consistent mindfulness, you become aware of the quality of your mental diet, the stream of thoughts you consume and project throughout the day. Much like food, what you mentally ingest affects your vitality. Feed your mind with fear, criticism, scarcity, and your emotional world shrinks. Feed it with compassion, possibility, truth, and your inner landscape begins to open and breathe. This is the foundation of both mental health and personal growth. Mindfulness is not about silencing the mind. It is about listening to it, wisely, gently, so you can redirect it with clarity. You start to become the loving gardener of your own mental environment. And slowly, thought by thought, breath by breath, you create space. Space between the stimulus and the response. Space between fear and clarity. Space between impulse and intention. And in that space, you reconnect with what was never lost, your inner peace. You no longer identify with every passing thought. You begin to observe them, to shape them, to lead them towards stillness. This is where the growth mindset becomes more than a motivational phrase. It becomes a living practice. Because growth is not always about doing more. Sometimes it's about becoming still enough to see more clearly. The joy of living, true happiness, emerges not from grasping, but from presence. When you stop feeding your mind with noise, you begin to hear the subtle voice of your inner wisdom. And in that quiet voice, you find guidance, peace, power. So ask yourself gently, if I were to treat each thought like a guest, would I invite this one to stay? Would I serve this thought to someone I love? Because here's the secret. You are someone you love, or rather, someone you can love. And training the mind is not a chore, it is an act of self-love. Mindfulness is that practice, the bridge between noise and clarity, between mental suffering and inner peace. It is how we reclaim authorship over our inner world. As we move into the next section, we'll explore how this discipline of awareness becomes a path, a way of living with integrity, intention, and joy. A way of being that not only transforms the self, but the very quality of life you radiate into the world. Because what begins as awareness becomes liberation. Part 4. Creating your inner atmosphere. Let me ask you something, not just casually, but intimately. When you think about your life, what do you feel? Take a deep breath. Don't rush the answer. What do you feel? Is it anxiety, regret, or a quiet but persistent fear that something is missing? Or maybe a sense of restlessness, that you should be somewhere else, someone else, doing something more? If so, you're not alone. But here's the key insight. Those emotions, those internal sensations, are not just fleeting reactions. They form the emotional atmosphere you live in. And whether you're conscious of it or not, this atmosphere colors every thought, every action, every interaction. You could be sitting in a beautiful home with a steady income and people who care for you, and still feel like you're drowning in dissatisfaction. Why? Because your inner climate, not your outer conditions, determines your experience of life. And here's the liberating truth. You can choose a new atmosphere. You can create, through mindfulness and imagination, a mental and emotional environment that supports your personal growth, your mental health, and your peace of mind. Let me explain how in a few points. First, mindful imagination, more than just visualization. This is where the power of mindful imagination enters. Each day, even for just a few minutes, step back from the noise of the world. Close your eyes and visualize yourself already at peace, already joyful, already aligned, already living the life you were designed to live. Not in terms of material wealth or achievement, but in the energy of freedom, love, and wholeness. See it, feel it, anchor it. This is not wishful thinking. It's not fantasy or escapism. It's neuroscience. Your brain, specifically the limbic system and visual cortex, responds to imagined experiences almost identically to real ones. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between vividly imagined emotions and actual events. This means you can rehearse peace, just like you can rehearse stress. You can train your body to feel joy, gratitude, and inner peace before any external circumstances change. Over time, this becomes a powerful form of mental conditioning. You are literally rewiring your brain for a new experience of life. This is neuroplasticity at work. You are shaping the emotional tone of your reality through conscious inner speech, mindful presence, and imaginative feeling. Second, Cultivating the growth mindset through feeling first. This is the foundation of what's often called a growth mindset. The understanding that you are not fixed, not limited by past conditioning or present circumstances. You are ever evolving, shaped by your intention, attention, and awareness. When you feel trapped in fear or scarcity, it's not enough to just think differently. You must feel differently, because emotion is what the body remembers. So imagine yourself as already whole, already confident, already living in alignment with your values, your peace, and your purpose. Let this imagined state become your new emotional baseline. Walk into your day not searching for happiness, but radiating it, not begging for validation, but embodying worth, not reacting to the past, but responding from presence. This is the true art of conscious creation. This is how you move from being a victim of circumstance to an author of experience. And third, happiness is not a goal, it's an atmosphere you generate. You don't chase happiness, you generate it from within. You don't wait for peace of mind, you practice it, thought by thought, breath by breath. When you do this consistently, your external world begins to shift. Why? Because your nervous system, your posture, your voice, your energy, they all begin to carry this new atmosphere. People respond to your energy, not your effort. And slowly, the world reflects back what you've already rehearsed within. Happiness, clarity, peace, abundance, joy of living. You become someone who lives in alignment with inner peace, not as an occasional mood, but as a chosen state of being. And from that state, your actions change, your habits evolve, your relationships transform, because everything flows from your inner climate. So as you go about your day, ask yourself, what atmosphere am I creating inside me right now? Is this inner weather aligned with the life I want to live? And if the answer is no, don't resist, don't judge, just breathe and begin again. Because every moment is a chance to return, to realign, to recreate yourself from the inside out. And that, right there, is where true transformation begins. Part 5. The Power of Inner Speech. Now, let's move even deeper, beneath the surface of emotion, beneath the swirl of sensation and circumstance, to the engine quietly humming beneath it all. Your inner speech, the private language of your mind. The silent narration that runs uninterrupted from the moment you wake to the moment sleep pulls you under. Let me ask you something. What are you saying to yourself all day long? Is it kind? Is it calm? Is it rooted in clarity and encouragement? Or does it sound more like a broken loop of worry, doubt, comparison, or self-judgment? This is not a small detail. Your inner speech is not just background noise. It is the source code of your life. I will now try to explain to you how this inner speech works in a few points. Point 1. The science of self-talk and mental health. Modern psychology, especially the work of researchers like Dr. Ethan Kross from the University of Michigan, has confirmed what spiritual traditions have taught for centuries. The silent conversation you have with yourself influences your mood, your behavior, your decision-making, even your immune system and long-term mental health. Your inner dialogue is not passive, it's powerful. It becomes the filter through which you see yourself, others, and the world. If that filter is cracked with fear, shame, or scarcity, everything becomes distorted. You could be living a life full of blessings, yet feel impoverished inside because your inner speech has convinced you that you're not enough, that you're failing, that happiness is always somewhere else, just out of reach. But here's the truth. Your inner speech shapes your identity. And your identity, how you see yourself, becomes the limit of what you allow yourself to experience. Point 2. Inner speech and the growth mindset. Now here's where this gets transformative. When you begin to consciously shift your inner speech, even slightly, you activate what Dr. Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset. Instead of saying, "I'm not good at this," you say, "I'm learning." Instead of, "I always mess this up," you say, "I'm growing stronger every day." This isn't fake positivity, it's mental training. You're teaching your nervous system to move toward resilience instead of reactivity, toward personal growth rather than self-defeat. This is how you build peace of mind from the inside out, because the mind, when left undirected, can easily spiral into fear. But the mind, when guided gently with awareness and intention, becomes your greatest ally on the path to happiness, inner peace, and the joy of living. Point 3. Silence, stillness, and the true inner voice. This is also why mystics, sages, and contemplative traditions around the world have emphasized the value of silence, meditation, and stillness. It's not about escaping the world. It's about finally hearing your real voice beneath all the noise. Because when the endless commentary of judgment, fear, and comparison quiets down, something deeper begins to emerge. A voice that doesn't shout, but whispers. That doesn't accuse, but reassures. That doesn't demand, but reminds you, you are already enough. You are safe. You are exactly where you need to be. That voice, call it your soul, your higher self, or simply awareness, is aligned not with fear, but with love. Not with lack, but with wholeness. When you hear that voice clearly, your entire relationship with life begins to shift. You stop chasing happiness and you begin living it. You stop seeking validation and start embodying your own worth. This is mental health at its highest level, not just the absence of illness, but the presence of clarity, compassion, and conscious choice. And point 4, becoming a guardian of your mind. So how do you begin? Start by noticing the tone, the texture, the quality of the words running through your mind. Ask yourself, if someone else spoke to me the way I speak to myself, would I consider them kind? If not, then it's time to become a guardian of your inner world. Choose your thoughts like you would choose your friends, with discernment, with compassion, and with love. Begin replacing anxious mental chatter with words of peace. Interrupt self-criticism with gentle reminders of your strength. Shift from fear-based projection to a mindset of curiosity and growth. Because every word you say to yourself is a thread. And together, those threads weave the fabric of your reality. So speak beauty, speak truth, speak peace. Let your inner speech become a sanctuary, a place where your mind and heart align, where your thoughts uplift your spirit, and your spirit begins to shape your world. Part 6. Cultivating the joy of living. Let's return to a simple truth, a truth that is so often forgotten in our pursuit of achievement, perfection, and control. Happiness is not an achievement, it is a frequency. It's not something you finally earn when all the boxes are checked, when the job is secured, the relationship perfected, the body sculpted, or the bank account full. Because the moment you place happiness outside yourself, in the future, in someone else's approval, in the outcome of an event, you've already lost access to it. You've traded something that is inherent for something that is conditional. The frequency of peace and presence. Peace of mind does not come from perfect circumstances. It doesn't come from retreating from life's challenges. True peace, the kind that endures, emerges when you face life from a higher level of consciousness. That shift doesn't require a change in your outer world. It requires a change in your relationship to your inner world, to yourself. The joy of living arises not when life is easy, but when your mind is present. Not judging, not clinging, not resisting the moment or bargaining with reality, but simply embracing this moment as sacred, as enough, as whole. This is mindfulness at its purest and most transformative form. The wisdom of impermanence. Buddha once said, "All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering." Let's pause and breathe that in. All things, circumstances, emotions, triumphs, failures, highs and lows, are fleeting. To cling to them is to suffer. To try and force them to stay is to fight against the nature of reality. But when you see impermanence clearly, not as a threat, but as a kind of sacred design, you begin to let go. And letting go is not weakness. It is the greatest strength of all, the power of surrendered awareness. Letting go means choosing trust over control. It means recognizing that you are not the waves of your life. You are the ocean. You are not your fleeting emotions. You are the space in which those emotions arise and pass. You are not your circumstances. You are the one who experiences them. This is the awakening of true self-awareness, the kind that anchors you in inner peace, no matter the storm around you. With this awareness, you begin to return to center, not by force, but by gently remembering who you are. You come back home to the stillness that was never gone. Joy as a daily practice. So how do we cultivate this joy? How do we anchor it in our daily life? In the middle of work stress, emotional ups and downs, and the distractions of a chaotic world, it begins with simple, conscious ritual. A few minutes each morning to breathe, to be still. A moment before meals to give silent thanks. A walk without your phone, just the sound of birds and footsteps. A conversation where you listen fully without rushing to respond. These are not just lifestyle choices. They are acts of spiritual intelligence. They are how you reprogram your nervous system to slow down, to soften, and to open. This is where personal growth becomes embodied. This is how mental health becomes more than a diagnosis. It becomes a practice, a living, breathing art form. Inner speech and the energy of joy. Let's bring back inner speech, because even in cultivating joy, it plays a central role. What do you say to yourself about joy? Do you say, "No, it's not for me," or "This is silly or unproductive because unattainable ideal," or "I'll feel joy once everything's fixed"? Or do you say, "Joy is my natural state. I allow myself to feel peace even now. I am worthy of happiness, even if things aren't perfect"? This inner language sets the tone, not just for your mind, but for your energy field. And your energy is contagious. To yourself, to your family, your work, your entire environment. As you begin to speak from joy, you begin to radiate it, and the world responds. The joy of being alive. Let's be clear. The joy of living doesn't mean every day is euphoric. It doesn't mean you'll never feel sadness, grief, or frustration. What it means is that you stop resisting life. You stop holding your breath, waiting for things to be different before you allow yourself to smile. It means you taste your coffee, you feel the warmth of the sun, you let music move you. You look look into your own eyes with compassion and you say, "Even now, I'm allowed to be happy. Even now, I choose peace." And in that moment, you rise above the noise. You return to the sacred stillness within you. You live not on autopilot, but awake. This is the joy of living, and it is available to you, right here, right now. Part 7. Practical exercise. The mental theater. Let's now move from reflection into practice. Because insight alone is not enough. Transformation happens through embodiment, through consistent, intentional repetition of truth. So let me offer you something simple, something profound, something you can begin today. The mental theater, a daily practice for inner transformation. Set aside just 5 to 10 minutes, that's all. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Sit or lie down comfortably. Place one hand on your chest, the other on your belly. Inhale slowly through your nose. Count to 4. Feel your belly rise as the air fills your lungs. Your chest should stay mostly still. Pause gently for a moment. Just hold the breath lightly. No strain. Exhale slowly through your mouth. Count to 6. Feel your belly fall. Let go of tension. Repeat for 4 to 5 rounds. Breathe in calm. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw. Let your belly soften. Breathe out stress. And as you breathe, begin to let the world fade away. Let the noise of the day dissolve. Let time itself grow still. You can silently say a calming phrase like, "I am safe, I am grounded, I am present." Just 2 to 3 minutes of this can shift your entire inner state, reducing anxiety, slowing the heart rate, and restoring clarity. You are entering what Neville Goddard called the secret place. The sacred space between thought and reality. The bridge between the invisible and the visible. Step into your scene. Now, gently bring to mind a scene, a moment from your desired future. But imagine it as if it is happening right now. This is not fantasy. This is mental rehearsal. Visualize it clearly, with all 5 senses. Where are you? What do you see around you? What are you wearing? What time of day is it? Is there sunlight on your skin? A breeze on your face? A familiar voice nearby? Most importantly, what do you feel? Let the emotion flood you. Joy, peace, pride, love, gratitude. Anchor it in your body. Let your nervous system feel, "This is my new normal." Add the soundtrack of affirmation. Now imagine someone you trust, a loved one, a mentor, even your future self, looking into your eyes and saying, "I'm so proud of you. You did it. You're exactly where you're meant to be." Feel the truth of their words land in your chest. Let them echo through your being. Smile. Breathe it in. You're not pretending. You are programming. This is how neuroplasticity works. The brain doesn't distinguish clearly between imagined experience and lived experience. So when you rehearse joy, confidence, fulfillment, you are wiring those states into your subconscious. You are creating new pathways of belief, identity, and possibility. Repetition creates reality. The more you enter this inner theater, the more natural it becomes. When it comes to deliberate creation, the mantra is perseverance, perseverance, perseverance. It's the cornerstone of any wise and unshakable foundation of every wise masterwork. Stay relentless. What once felt like imagination begins to feel like truth. And when you feel it real, you begin to act in alignment with it. You speak differently. You carry yourself with new energy. You make decisions from a place of empowerment, not fear. Your inner speech, your body language, your entire vibration shifts. And slowly, or sometimes suddenly, your outer world begins to catch up to the truth you've rehearsed inside. Because reality is not just something you observe. It is something you participate in, something you shape. You are the director. You are not a passive witness to your life. You are the director of this mental theater. You choose the script. You cast the roles. You set the lighting, the tone, the soundtrack. And as you consciously create this inner world, you transform the outer one. Not by force, not by striving, but through quiet, sustained alignment. A final invitation. So tonight or tomorrow morning, whenever you feel the pull inward, return to your mental theater. Not as a duty, but as a gift to yourself. As a daily reunion with your future self, who already knows the peace, joy, and fulfillment you seek. Close your eyes. Breathe. See it. Feel it. Anchor it. And then, go live from it. You are not your past. You are not your fears. You are not a product of circumstance. You are a conscious creator, a sculptor of self, a living, evolving expression of divine intelligence, learning to speak, see, and feel your reality into being. Your thoughts shape your world. So choose them well, and always remember, you can return to inner peace anytime, not by escaping the world, but by choosing a new relationship to it. Part 8. Final thoughts. Returning home. So here we are, at the end of this journey, or perhaps the beginning of another. You've listened deeply, you've looked inward, you've begun to remember. And now, I invite you to let all striving fall away. Because to find happiness, you must stop chasing it. To find peace of mind, you must become still enough to feel it. To live in joy, you must remember who you already are. Coming home to yourself. The world is loud, and it teaches us to look outward, to measure, compare, accumulate, perform. But inner peace doesn't come from gaining more. It comes from releasing what you are not. It is the still, steady presence underneath the thinking mind, the quiet space between your thoughts, the observer behind the noise. As the great sage Ramana Maharshi once said, without understanding yourself, what is the use of trying to understand the world? These words are not meant to isolate you, but to guide you inward, to the only place where truth has ever lived. You are never lost, only distracted. Personal growth is not becoming someone new. It is returning to the one you've always been. Before the doubt, before the trauma, before the world told you who you should be. This is not about fixing yourself. You are not broken. This is about waking up from the illusion of brokenness. You are not behind. You are not late. You are always on time. Right on time. For your own unfolding. Your journey is sacred. Every breath you take in awareness is a step toward wholeness. Every moment of conscious thought, of loving inner speech, is a quiet act of liberation. It doesn't matter how far you've strayed. You can always return. And what do you return to? Not a doctrine, not a system, but to presence, to stillness, to the essence of you. Let this be your reminder. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. You are not your past. You are the awareness that witnessed it. You are not the roles you play. You are the presence behind them. You are consciousness, intelligent, compassionate, creative. And when you begin to live from this center, you no longer chase peace, you radiate it. The home within. So let this be your invitation. In the quiet moments of your day, return to your breath. Return to your center. Return home. Because peace is not found in a perfect future, it is found in a fully felt now. Thank you for choosing to listen. Not just to these words, but to yourself. You are not alone on this journey, and no matter how far you wander, there is always a light within you, ready to guide you home. Until next time, speak with love, think with intention, and live from the center. Thank you for joining us on Speech and Mind. If you found value in today's episode, share it with someone you love. Be sure to subscribe for more episodes on mindfulness, mental health, and personal transformation. And remember, you will not find happiness, peace of mind, and joy unless you return to your breath, to your awareness, to yourself.